In this video, I'm going to show you how to create and manage purchase invoices in Tally accounts. There are various ways to create a purchase invoice. Firstly, from your front dashboard, if you click on the drop-down box at the top of the screen where it says Create Invoice, you will then have the option here just to click Create Purchase. The other way to do this is if you go to the Purchases screen on the left-hand side, you'll have a button when you create your first one in the middle of the page to create a purchase invoice, or alternatively just hit the create button at the top of the screen. The last way to do this is if you go into your supplier screen and pick your relevant supplier, you will then have the option to create a purchase at the top of the screen. If you click create a purchase while on the supplier record, it will default directly to that supplier. If you do it from the normal purchases screen, you will just be able to go and choose the supplier from the drop-down box. You'll see that we have our supplier invoices numbered, so we can see that this is number 1. We can override that if we wish to, and we can also put any key references that we want to appear on the actual purchase invoice itself. My payment terms have come through that we set against our supplier, so it's come through at 28 days, which again can be changed for all of your suppliers or just for individual supplier records. We can see our default currency is set to British pounds, and to add information onto my purchase invoice, all I need to do is click add line item into here. We can see that mine is defaulted to boiler because we set that as a default against B&Q. We can now assign these to various projects if we're using the projects module or not. And then all you need to do is just type in whatever you've purchased. So I'm just going to put a boiler in there. And then you can either type in the net rate, which will add in the VAT, and we've got the total gross value here. Or alternatively, you could just type in the total field, and that will calculate the net plus the VAT for you. We can then add additional lines in here, so I'm just going to say I bought some other materials, and we can see that it's pre-filled to materials in here, and I'm just going to type in we bought some other materials, and the total cost of that was £500, and again we can see it's calculated my net value. You can move these around depending on how you want this to be shown within the system, and you can add any various comments or anything like that against the actual purchase invoice itself. All I need to do then is just click save in the top right hand side, and that purchase invoice has now been saved in the system. If we now go to the purchases module on the left hand side, you will see my purchase invoice, and we can see our reference in there, supplier reference, supplier, the date and when it's due. We can see the status is unpaid, and the total including VAT is £1,900. If we go to our supplier screen on the left hand side and click into B&Q, if we go to the purchases and stats section, we will now see that that purchase invoice is listed within this screen. I can see it's unpaid, and on the right hand side we can see our statistics now listed against our supplier, when we first purchased, when our last purchase was, how much we've billed, how much we've paid them, and the total due, which is the outstanding amount on the purchase invoice itself. You can drill straight down to the purchase invoice from this screen just by clicking into it, and this will open up the invoice itself. There are various options on here. At the top of the screen we have the option to edit. So all I need to do is, if I want to make any changes to this, is hit edit, and then we can just go in here, make any changes we want, and then just hit the save button at the top right hand side, and that's now made the amendment against the purchase itself. We can also copy this, so if we do a lot of repeat transactions within the business and we deal with a supplier quite a lot and purchase similar things, I can just say copy, and then we can copy that to a new purchase. We can now see it's moved to number 2, so this is our second purchase invoice. I can change the reference, and I could either continue to change any other details in there, or if I just hit save again, we'll now see that when we go through to the purchases screen on the left, I've now got 2 purchase invoices for the same value in the system. So it's a really easy way just to duplicate existing records. If you scroll down, you also have the ability to email and print. So if I print it off, it will just print off as a PDF document, which I could then email to my client or anything like that. Or if I just click the email editor, it will bring up their email address, and then I can type in the subject here and the description, and it will just attach that as a purchase order. So we'll now see there's the purchase, which I can just send through to my supplier as and when needed, and it will store all of those directly into the system. If we go back to the purchases screen now, you also have the top options at the top to set up repeat purchases. So if you always buy the same things from certain suppliers all the time, you can set up a repeat purchase and it will just generate these transactions directly through the system. If you've paid a supplier, you can just click into the purchase invoice itself, scroll down, and at the bottom you can add a payment. So if you just hit add payment in here, you can choose the payment date. You can choose the payment amount, so it might be in a full or a part payment, so you can override this and just do part payments. I'm just going to say we're going to pay this off as full. The payment's going to go into my current account, and I paid that on my company credit card. And then you can type in any other notes about that you want to appear in the bank. And then if I press save, we will see £2,000, so the payment's now listed at the bottom, and we can see that invoice has been marked off as paid. So if we now go through to our purchases screen, we can clearly see that that purchase invoice has been marked as paid. If we now go through to the supplier screen, we can see the total I've paid them is £2,000 and our outstanding balance is £2,000. And if we click in to purchase and stats again, this all goes through, so it flows through the system and it tracks all that in the supplier statistics as well. You can also send out confirmation of payment. So if you go into purchases and we click into our paid purchase invoice, at the right hand side next to the payment you can edit or unallocate if you've made a mistake. But if you click print or email, this will just generate a remittance. And then I can send that through to a supplier and we can see this is the confirmation of payment, when it's been made, the payment method, and you could just send that through to the supplier to confirm that that bill has been paid. And that's how easy it is just to set up, create and manage purchase invoices using Tally accounts.